don't get anything out of it, this will be helpful.
But how bad is the situation in Kerala where you were the governor?
Slightly better than here, but not. It's not ideal. Slightly better.
So Justice Kang, what is your view on the move to appoint ad hoc judges to reduce the average age of litigation, which is 15 years, from 15 years to 3 years? Is ad hocism the way forward?
I think which is a practical solution. This is the only practical solution in the higher judiciary. We know judges who had been doing very well, who had been deciding cases. We can see the credentials. They can be appointed. Now 62 High Court judges retired, that they are very healthy, they are very fit. Similarly, not only judges, retired judges, but eminent lawyers, they can also be persuaded to act as ad hoc judges. That is one, I think, practical solution which doesn't require much infrastructure or much money also.
Justice Kang, thank you for that. Mr. Cheema, can I just get you in briefly, since you're on the other side of the judge, I mean, practically across the table. What is your view on the ad hoc judges?
Look, this is a very, very sensitive and risky issue. Ground realities are when you employ fresh people for an year or for two, or you extend in routine an additional session judge or session judge's tenure, there is likelihood of terrible corruption in that. The ground level feedback is very, very discouraging. And therefore, we have to be very careful. I'll agree with Honorable Chief Justice Kang that you choose them very carefully. You choose the very best of the High Court judges, the most prestigious of the session judges. You always know who are the best. Ad hoc judges, if you handle the issue properly, is fine. If you do not, if you just do it for the sake of fast track, you will damage the credibility of the system.
Mr. Cheema, I have to interrupt over here. It's time for a short break now. We'll discuss the accountability of the judges after the break.
मेरे पास है आई कंट्रोल प्लस। इसके चिल फीचर के साथ पिछले 7 दिनों के कोई भी टीवी प्रोग्राम्स मैं जब चाहे देख सकती हूँ। ना तो रिकॉर्डिंग का झंझट और ना ही कोई तंग करने वाली ब्रेक्स का।
आई कंट्रोल प्लस, इंडियाज लार्जेस्ट IPTV नेटवर्क।
How relevant is a news story?
When did it happen?
Who were affected?
How important is it?
This is how we evaluate.
Potential news and views.
We evaluate,
You discuss
we analyze
and simplify it for you.
at 8 p.m. day in and day out.
India Night Prime. How long have you been married?
Oh my God, why are you making me feel so old?
Which helps you kind of do these scenes and act such scenes out with ease. I love being naked. But Sabnal, Ben is mightier than this world.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਲਿਖਤ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਲੜ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ।
Topmost banners na come with like Yash Raj films.
Doing it for the love.
Got you breaks which you otherwise probably may not have come.
Ultimate actor.
You're living in a state of mind which doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in destiny.
I don't believe in any ritual. I don't need the idea of God.
This is quite the perspective of UG Krishnamurti.
This is what I've understood. He actually tore all your perspective and gave you no perspective.
Was it a dangerous situation? I mean, suddenly he was almost godless. I mean,
He was the most dangerous man I've met in my life.
Welcome back. After the pendency of cases, we'll now discuss the accountability of judges. Accountability of judges is a major issue that has led to this present state of affairs in our judiciary. How can this be achieved? To know, we continue our discussion with our esteemed guests, Anupam Gupta, R.S. Cheema, Ashok Agarwal, and we are also joined by Justice Kang with us. Now, Mr. Cheema, talking of accountability, do you think the system of the appointment of judges needs a change?
First thing is, we must recognize as part of the system that the credibility of the judiciary is under a kind of strain under which it never was. And we must also recognize that it needs a very high degree of credibility. I'll start my answer further by saying that we need to actually look into the level of credibility or prestige that the institution enjoys today. But answering your question straight away, these are directly correlated. I think we have had a visible and steady decline in caliber of judges almost all through the board.
But do you blame it to the system? See, earlier the executive had a greater role in the appointment, and now the judiciary itself has a greater role.
It's embarrassing to us as part of the system, but the judicial coup by which the judiciary took over the power has probably led to a lot of inbreeding, lot of compromise in selection, and devaluation on merit. Probably the earlier system was checks and balances, not one
So
side.
you would go by the earlier system if one has to choose between the two.
We need to drastically change it. We need to recognize that this system has not worked, it has worked to the disadvantage of the credibility.
Justice Kang, perhaps you are the best person to talk about it because you have seen both these systems. There was a different system of appointment of judges when you were appointed, and now there is a different system. Which is your pick and why?
I fully endorse Cheema's comments. To my mind, the present system is a failure. I won't say that the previous system was an ideal system, but it produced very eminent judges, right, starting from Justice Shadilal to Justice Achar Khanna, Justice Sarkaria, Justice Bhargavati, Justice Chandrachud, Justice Krishna Iyer, Justice Chanapa Reddy. There are so many stalwarts. But that was a system because there were checks and balances. One inherent weakness in the present system is that judiciary has no means to know about the background of a person, prospective candidates. There is no system. You have to depend on somebody. Whereas the previous system was the Chief Justice had a say, then the government had a say. There were both inputs. That was better than this. I don't say it's ideal, but I think there can be a system where outsiders can also be associated, like the judicial the system for disciplinary action, which is being mooted. For appointment also, I feel that President of the Bar Council, eminent lawyers, and the second thing I think is that there has been a mystery has been created, a myth regarding judiciary. There is no transparency. At the time of appointment, people should know who are the persons being proposed, so that then people can't enter from the back doors. That can be one system. Then second system was the college. There should be a college instead of the present collegium. People who are knowledgeable, they should also be associated. So that can help. But one thing is there that this is, we are asking for the social milieu, whatever the country, whatever the bar, whatever the, it is, we are expecting this, that in a turbulent sea of corruption, there should, the islands of excellence will always be there. I think
Thank you.
being,
Thank you, Justice Kang. Now, Anupam, I know you have a very clear, a definite view on this. Now, you've also been at the forefront of demanding that all those judges who have their kith and kin practicing in the same courts should not be posted there. How serious is the issue, the problem?
It was a very serious issue more than a decade ago. It remains a very serious issue, and I see absolutely no sign of its abating in the next decade. Apart from lip service at all levels of the judicial and legal hierarchy, nothing substantial is being done about it. In fact, the transfer policy of judges has suffered an inner subversion on the part of the highest in the judicial hierarchy, something which cannot but be regretted.
So, to bring in greater accountability, you would suggest that the judges who have kith and kin practicing in the same court should be transferred out of the High Court?
My approach towards the transfer policy is two-pronged. One which is not connected with the ethics of the issue, but with what Justice Krishna Iyer so felicitously described as the cross-fertilization of cultures. Horizontal mobility amongst the judiciary contributes to the best judges traveling all over the land, as happens with the administrative services, with police services, with all of the fields of human endeavor. Of course, the ethics of the issue is naturally predominant. So judges whose relatives, close relatives, sons, daughters, even spouses, nephews, nieces, this is as old as 20 years ago. In the 90s, Chief Justice Venkatachalaya inaugurated a major policy of transfers which led to a diminution of the problem. It has been revived in recent times. So I am for restoration and revival of the transfer policy so far as the issue of nepotism is concerned.
Mr. Agarwal, you've been associated with the Punjab and Haryana High Court for a long time.
Quite right.
Would you agree with what Anupam is saying?
Well, on principle, to say that a judge who has a kith or a kin or a close, maybe even a wife for that matter, spouse, I will use the expression, practicing, and therefore he should not be a judge of this court, I will not agree. Of course, there can be individual failings, they should be rectified. Nobody would support that. But on principle, to say that you cannot be a judge of this court merely because you have a kin practicing here would, according to me, be unfair to the judge and to the system both. You are undermining and in fact doubting the integrity of a judge merely for this reason, that you have a son practicing and therefore we have serious doubts about your integrity. That would be in fact undermining the integrity of the judge, and in such subtle a way that you undermine him and don't even tell him that you are doing it.
So how to address this kind of an issue?
This is really a problem which can be addressed with what we call as judges with higher morals, high morals in fact. The appointment process should be, as Justice Kang said, more transparent. You should have people with better mettle to man the courts, not that you can make a man honest only because his son is not practicing here.
But Mr. Agarwal, here is the situation. I'm sure a man is a social animal, and so are the judges. Now the point is, there could be judges who would socialize in the evenings, their families would socialize, they would mix up. And so their uncles and aunts at the social gathering, and they appear before, and there they address them a lordship. Now how practical is this?
It has been. I mean, this problem, as Mr. Gupta has now pointed out, say according to him is about a decade old, right? Have you not seen judges and the lawyers, or we are following a British system, right through the British Empire, wherever you find this has been in existence, and there have been never failings on this score. Failings on this score were not there. Failings on any score, I mean individual failings, I say, I may be otherwise fallible, I may be a person with a weak metal, I may be a person with all my faults in life, that's a different matter altogether. But to say that I am fallible only because my son is practicing here,
no, I'm sure there would be people who are men of personal
there are, and more than one.
I'm sure there are, but at the same time, you keep hearing these rumors that so and so son is doing very well because of the obvious reasons.
You're absolutely right that some people have misused this, and some people are who deserve it. But then you cannot say with one brush that they all must go out only because you have a kin practicing here. That would be unfair to the class, that would be unfair to the individual judge, that would be unfair to the system, and that would be unfair absolutely.
Let me get Justice Kang into the discussion. Justice Kang, what is your take on the kith and kin practicing in the same court as the parents?
I think we had a very learned professor in law college, Mr. Mathur. Whenever any person put a point of view, another point of view was put up, he will say partly you are right, partly he is right. I think there is no black, white and black area in this, because both issues, there are